Your worship, I'll count us down. 3, 2, 1.
I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Grand Bay-Westfield on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 to order at 7 o'clock p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Grand Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolster land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolster, along which live Woolsterqueg, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. Record of attendance. We have a full roster of attendance this evening. Thank you, Council. Item 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of November 14th, 2023 as presented. Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there any? There being none, we'll move on to item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, petitions. 7A is presentation of community grant funding to fall 2023 recipients. And this is a great way to open up the meeting here tonight. I know Council is very pleased to present these checks to the community groups that are represented here today, because our community wouldn't be what it is without the work of people like you. So I would like to thank you and all of the volunteers that do things in the town to make it a better place for all of us to live, work, and play. So thank you. So I will start by calling you up one at a time to get your checks, and I guess you can come along here and get it from me. So I'll start with the St. Augustine's Cemetery Garden Committee, and this project was a memorial garden, and we are pleased to present a check in the amount of $1,000 for the work you're doing to beautify the community and make that space a wonderful spot for people to go. So thank you very much. And our next one is the Grand Bay Army Cadets 3034. This is our brand new branch of cadets, and we're very pleased to have you here. I've had the pleasure of being at your first formal parade and at the flag raising the other day, so thank you very much. And there is a check in support of the program, and thank you for everything that you do. Thank you very much. And now we have Honor Our Veterans, which is our Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 22, and this is for the monuments honoring veterans. And do we have someone from the Legion? I can come to you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for your service. And now we have the River Valley Women's Hockey Association. And this is for first aid kits, so that women that are out there playing hockey and getting fit and having fun have first aid kits for when things get a little rough. So thank you very much. And now we have Inglewood School, and it's a donation for equipment, supplies, and an outdoor volleyball court. So thank you very much. And Lancaster Minor Hockey Association. So thank you very much. We appreciate the work that you do in keeping our kids on the ice and busy and out of trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have fun. And is that everybody?
Yes.
I think I saw some new people come in.
Yeah, River Valley's here.
All right, River Valley Women's School. And so this is a donation for active outdoor playground equipment. So who do we have with us here today?
Pete Nutting and
supported this project, so we're very, very pleased about this project and what it's gonna do for the kids in the school and the surrounding community. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, for the picture, I apologize. We just have it in our meeting. Okay. Thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you. Okay. And everyone is welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or if you have other things you need to do, you won't hurt my feelings. That's a really nice way to start things off. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lori. Bye, Catherine. Item 7B, RCMP Quarter 2 report, and we have Acting Sergeant Julie Rogers Marsh here with us tonight.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Okay, so are there any questions about the quarterly report? Anything that stands out to anybody? I know some of you have other questions, and we'll get to those.
I have one, but I'll let Council go first if they have something. Council Day?
I'm seeing on our community page that we seem to be having an increase or a spike in thefts, and especially in Brandy Point. Can you either comment, if you can, about those, and maybe to remind people what they should be doing?
Absolutely, I think it's great that we're talking about that. So I actually was on shift on Saturday and got the 3 calls. So we did have a theft of 2 motor vehicles on Majestic, and then there were some thefts from vehicles further down Majestic and on Nelson. So I would like to point out that we've only received those 3 reports. So I go on the community Facebook page and I see people commenting saying that their vehicle got rummaged through, something's got taken, but it's important for everybody to report that to us, because if we don't have reports, there's nothing that we can do. So it's important that we have an idea of how many, what areas, some people have doorbell cams, some people have surveillance, so all of that is really important for us to continue with these investigations. So I would encourage people, yes, it's great to let the community know through the Facebook page, but it's also important that they report it to the RCMP. So that's the first thing. The other thing I would encourage people to lock their vehicles, to lock their houses, remove any items of value. We're getting into the season for Christmas shopping, and I know people will have, maybe things that they bought in their cars. I encourage you guys to bring those into the house. Make sure you don't leave anything of value. I feel like these are crimes of opportunity. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. It is what it is. However, let's try to do those things that may prevent people from taking those opportunities to do that. Questions?
I have one on the report specifically. So the property crime $5,000 and under was up 31 from 12 compared to prior year. Is that a trend we're seeing, Julie, or is that like from a specific incident?
That was the specific incident from the Bayview neighborhood, where we did arrest 2 individuals that were responsible for that rash.
Okay, yeah, I wondered if that was related to that, or if we were actually seeing an increase over time, or if that was just that one.
I believe that was that one particular incident that kind of made it go up a bit, because there were quite a few reports of that.
And the other question I had is, under the drug offenses, there were no tables. Is that, it was just completely blank? I didn't know if that was left out, or if there was more data that was gonna be forthcoming later.
Probably more data forthcoming. Yes.
Council, any questions?
The lack of presence in Bay-Westfield, does this help any, the lack of RCMP in our neighborhood? Does a lot of people say, where are the RCMP? You're existing. You guys not around, I'm not in Bay-Westfield itself, like.
So this is what you're hearing, that they're not seeing us?
Yes, they wonder where you are. So that opens up the door for people to say, well, Granby is not policed properly and they're breaking the cars or doing what you're doing now, so.
Yeah, no, and I can assure you in the public that we are out there, we're being strategic with our community patrols. I mean, we do get complaints in certain areas and we try to, like Inglewood, for example, we've been, making an effort to patrol there as much as we can. The reality is that we can't be everywhere all the time, so, we may have to go out to Musquash, we may have to go, out to Oak Point, we may have to go out to Clarendon, like these are all areas that we police as well, so, I feel like we're in Grand Bay as much as we can be, but we also are responsible for those other communities as well. So again, I would encourage people to report any suspicious activity that they see. I mean, we all know our communities, we all know our neighborhoods. If we see vehicles that are unfamiliar or we see people around, I would encourage people to report that. The more information we have, the more hopefully we can do about it.
Are we fully staffed in Bay-Westfield?
Right now we are pretty good. We had one constable leave. He transferred to Nova Scotia, and then we have a new member that came from Nunavut, so that is not a vacancy. We have one who's gradual return to work. They're not fully operational at this point, so that would be one position that we're not full. And then with Sergeant Sampson being seconded to another detachment, that puts me into that spot, so we're sort of missing that.
So the new constables coming out of town or police officer, they're familiar with the area, with people in certain crime rates in certain areas of town, like, are they familiar?
Absolutely, so that's one thing that I encourage my senior members to do when we get new members into the detachment. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with the community, I've lived here since 2009, so I feel it's important that when we get new people in that we show them the areas that we're responsible for, some of the areas that we feel we may need to spend a little bit more patrols. Obviously with what happened on Saturday, there was a heavy presence there around that area. So any of our new members, they sort of get that idea of the area and where we would like them to patrol more frequently.
Any other questions? Councillor McIntosh?
You mentioned the community page. I have seen on the community page residents talking about reestablishing a neighborhood watch group.
Mhm.
Now, if they were to do that, do you have any involvement in that, or can you guide them? Or?
We can, so it wouldn't be ours, like we wouldn't hold it, but we certainly could get that sort of rolling, and we could certainly put them in the right direction on who they would need to reach into to kind of get that going. We certainly it would be a partnership for
Right.
sure.
Okay, thank you.
So if that's something that you guys are looking at or the community's looking at, they can certainly give me a call and we can talk about it.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question. I know in the past we've had issues in school zones, in particular Westfield Elementary School, just mainly because it's a new one. Just curious if there's been any change in that or if you're still experiencing problems in that area.
Glad you asked that. So over the last month, we've certainly stepped up our patrols. I think at the beginning, because it was sort of an educational stance that we took so that people would know that it's not 60 anymore, it's gone down to 30, let's be aware of that. Now we're past that educational part. People know it's 30 in front of Westfield School. So we have been doing quite a bit of enforcement there. Members, they do their morning patrols, their afternoon patrols, sort of when kids are going to school and coming from school, that we feel that that's like really important to do those patrols then. They're on a regular daily basis, as long as we're not pulled away for calls for service, but for the most part, I do those regularly, especially in the mornings, and then in the afternoons. And I can say for the last month, since October 10th, we've issued 6 POPAs and 6 warnings specifically for the Westfield school zone. So there has been some enforcement there.
Thank you.
Anybody else have another question? I have a quick question. That with the new allocations of officers that are going to be coming to our area, it looks like Regional Service Commission 9, Funny Regional, is going to be getting 4 additional officers. Do you know when that's going to be happening and how they're going to be allocated?
That's a good question. I would like to know that as well. No, so don't really have an idea, and they haven't really ironed out as far as how many each detachment is getting. I know we will be getting resources here, I can say that, I just don't know how many. And a timeline, I know that we want it to be sooner rather than later, so as soon as we're able to fill those positions, staffing is gonna do that. So unfortunately, I don't have a timeline.
Thank you. Councillor
One
Bill?
more question, the Riverville, I mean, the primary school or Westfield school, what is the difference? What, you take away, if you go to Westfield school and you sit out front there to catch meters, 30 kilometers. What's the difference up in Wolfson Drive from the primary school, that there's no fence, or it's a little different layout? I mean, it's right beside traffic and, cause people want to do speed, I hear people speeding there also.
In front of Grand Bay Primary?
Yes.
So when I say that we're doing school patrols, we split them up. So we will be doing Grand Bay Primary, like my kid goes to Grand Bay Primary, so I tend to do that one first thing in the morning. And then we've got other members that will do Westfield, River Valley, especially when they're crossing right there by the car wash in the morning, we definitely want to be there. So it is 30 in front of Grand Bay Primary as well. We haven't received any complaints. It was more, we were targeting Westfield because we were getting some complaints of speeders there.
Any other questions or comments?
So there was just one thing I wanted to mention. So we do have a new program, community program officer. Her name is Megan Wells. So Grand Bay Westfield is part of her territory that she covers. So she unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but I definitely think we'll bring her maybe to the next one so she can introduce herself and hand out some business cards. So her area of responsibility would be diversion and alternative measures for adults and youth. So that's sort of her main, one of her main responsibilities. She also is the school liaison, so she can do presentation for schools. She's also a community liaison, so if, certain groups were looking for, maybe a presentation on fraud. We did one a couple of months ago at one of the churches. So, those are things that she's able to do, and she's also takes care of the violence threat risk assessment for schools. That's why she couldn't be here tonight, because she was doing one of those. So she is a resource for us, and I'm hoping she'll be able to make the next meeting so she can introduce herself to everybody.
Yeah, that's good news. That's good news, yeah.
It had been vacant for a long time, so it's definitely a resource that that is very beneficial for us in the community.
Go ahead, Councillor.
What are her hours?
So she 8 to 4, 8:30 to 4:30. But for example, like she got called in to do an assessment this evening. It started at 4:30, so it'll be later. But if it was something like that was an evening presentation, I'm sure we would make it work. But she's mostly like Monday to Friday daytime. Yeah.
Could you fill in at the RCP office for criminal record checks this person, or?
No.
Yeah, okay,
No,
I just thought maybe the
that's
two
not
together and have somebody.
She actually, you guys may know her because she used to fill in on Wednesdays. She was one of our DSAs for in Hampton, and this was actually a promotion for her.
Alright.
Yeah. Good question though.
Alright, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a good
Have a
continued
good
day.
night, thank you. So we'll move on to item 8, minutes of previous meeting. 8A, regular council minutes of October 23rd, 2023. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of October 23rd, 2023 as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Berkey. Second. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. 8B, email poll, dirt road Christmas parade. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll, dirt road Christmas parade. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Second, Councillor Berkey. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 8C, email poll, YMCA Glen Carpenter Camp. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll YMCA Glen Carpenter Camp. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. 8D, email poll, Remembrance Day Service Road Closure. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll, Remembrance Day Service Road Closure. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole, a second by Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 9, unfinished business. There being none, we'll move on to item 10, bylaws. 10A, bylaw number PS-004, dangerous and unsightly premises bylaw. Before I get into the first reading, I'll pass that over to the Deputy CEO.
Thank you. So this is kind of a continuation of some renewal of bylaws so that they encompass our entire community. And with that, I'll hand over to our development officer, Dave Taylor, to talk to the specifics.
So it reads a very short bylaw, but when you go into it, there's quite a lengthy process involved in it, set out in the Act. There's really no change in the process, but it is a change from the Municipalities Act to the new Local Governance Act, and the reference numbers are different. But basically, that is the same, and by doing that, it applies to Ward 2.
Thank you. David, any questions or comments for David before I move on? So first reading by title, bylaw number PS-004, dangerous and unsightly premises bylaw. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. A second? Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Second reading by title, bylaw number PS-004, dangerous and unsightly premises bylaw. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, and a second by Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. We'll move on to item 10B, bylaw number PD-011, building bylaw, and again, I'll pass it on to the Deputy CAO.
And I'll do the same, pass it on to our development officer.
And again, this one is a bylaw that comes from a change in the Act as well. Our old building bylaw expired basically with the bringing in the Building Code Administration Act, and with the new boundaries adjustment, we acted under the building regulation under that Act until we could complete our municipal plan and zoning bylaw, which that's in place in September. It brings in the zoning requirements. One thing that it specifically does for Ward 2, it no longer requires to get a Department of Transportation setback certificate. That's one of the things that was a holdover under the regulation, so we have to bylaw it.
Thank you. So I will read the first reading, and actually, before I do that, maybe I'll open up to questions. Anybody have any questions for the development officer on the bylaw? So we will do first reading by title, bylaw number PD-011, building bylaw. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Second reading by title, bylaw number PD-011, building bylaw. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Bylaw number PD-0012, Development Incentive Program, and I'll pass this on to the CAO, Deputy CAO.
Thank you again. So the Development Center Program, the CAO had brought this previously, so this is kind of as a result of the one, the Housing Accelerator Fund, and two, just the general change in the housing needs in not just our community, but the region and the country as a whole. So the existing one that isn't, the existing program that's in place now was implemented in 2019. It doesn't quite fit the current environment. So this new one is intended to increase the housing inventory for the missing middle and seniors, as well as the multi-residential. There's three components: upfront capital cost grant, the post-completion incentive grant, or if a developer is building 24 units or more, they could be eligible for both. And then it also outlines the different eligibility requirements for the developers, and this will somewhat be in conjunction with the half funding, and therefore the amounts will be adjusted as needed for that.
Okay, thank you. Before I get into reading the bylaws, does anybody have any questions on the program? Councillor Balcom?
Just one question for clarification. Through your intro to the acting CEO, this particular bylaw is meant to incent builders. Is it subject to a successful recipient of HAF funding?
As this incentive program is now, no.
It's not.
It's not.
So this bylaw, once the first and second and third reading gets passed, will be in place whether or not the town is successful or not in receiving the HAF funding. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, the third reading is dependent somewhat. The hope is that we'll have our results on our HAF application at that time.
That's the reason for the first and second now to
Right. Yeah, and then
meet that
the
timeline.
intent is that, the hope is that the HAF application results will
I
be
thought
in.
that would be the case, but I wanted to be certain. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions or comments?
I just have a more specific question under section 5 in grants. There are 7 projects listed there where they can apply for an upfront capital cost grant. I'm just wondering if anything else came up, if there's a process to apply for another project that's not one of those 7.
So the short answer is no. Having said that, this, like many things related to development that we recognize there is a very strong need for in our community, is our full intent is to find every path to yes. It is believed that these categories should cover most things, especially those things that we consider to be a barrier to development specifically here in Bay-Westfield. At the end of the day, it is a developer's market per se. There's an absolute need for housing and this type of work to be done. So this is intended to help with these specific areas related to our.
I couldn't think of one, but.
Any other questions or comments? I'll move on to reading the bylaw. First reading by title, bylaw number PD-0012, Development Incentive Program. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Second reading by title, bylaw number PD-0012, Development Incentive Program. Do I have a motion? Thank you. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Toole and second by Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. And before I move on, I forgot I did have a question, was maybe just a request. So when I was back when the first Development Incentive Program was put together, I was on PAC, and the program went through PAC to get their input as well. Is that the intention as well, that this program will be presented to PAC to get their input as well?
Yes, we can absolutely do that before third reading, have a a copy of it go to PAC for any input they have. This was kind of, I don't wanna say a rush item, but it didn't have the same amount of time to do a more full consultation process, but that will, and can be, for sure.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 10D, bylaw number PW-002, respecting snow and ice control. We'll pass that on again to the deputy CAO.
So a slight change of items here. I'm actually going to request council to entertain deferring or tabling this particular motion until the November 27th meeting. Administration just needs a little bit more time to address some notification issues for the public and make sure that we're giving all the proper timelines for everyone to have their input and to be able to review the bylaw.
So we're looking for a motion to table the bylaw until the November 27th meeting.
So move.
Thank you, Councillor Malcolm, and that was seconded by Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. We will move on to item 11, new business recommendations, snow and ice control plan. And I'll pass it on to the deputy CAO.
So as council is aware, the town's had a snow and ice control plan for a number of years. It was revamped prior to bringing snow control in-house as part of that decision-making process. Once the decision was made to bring snow control in-house, that plan was reviewed again. There was an opportunity for public input that was made available for everyone. And with that, I will turn it over to the Commissioner to any additional comments.
Yes, so thank you, Your Worship, yes, so we have the new snow and ice plan for the town to operate the snow and ice, which is exciting. Because again, with this here, it brings control and flexibility in-house. We never had that before with the contractor. Because again, you were doing like an actual tender and pricing and it wasn't the same. But now it's in-house, we have complete control. We can change it, we can edit it, it's going to go forward every year and we can make some changes. And then again, so the major change, I guess, was to have it all, so it's referred to in-house, there was no word for contractor now, it's all us. And then to apply some actual detail in there so people know what we're actually doing, council, as I've made some more changes to it, which are in the report, but just to highlight them for the residents out there is, we had on page 9, priority 2A level of service, which is an area that's really related to time. And again, we have 2 sites that we've put in for that, which will be the St. John Transit, the bus stop at Taylor Park, because they come on a regular time, so depending on the storm, is to make sure that's open at the available time. And we've also included our school bus routes. I'm in the process now of contacting Anglophone South District and find out what buses are, say for example, are on Valley View for elementary, what time does it do that? For middle school, what time does it do that? For high school, what time does it do that? So we're gonna have those times in there, and then we'll be aware of those and we'll follow that. So that's what we're after. So, but each bus route is gonna have its own different time. But we want to find out what those are, and again, so our guys will know that, we'll train them for that, and we'll be able to go with that. So that would be a good change there. There's gonna be, I guess we're gonna be adding the snow and ice plan, or snow and ice policy, or snow and ice control bylaw, when you adopt that next week, that'll be in there. Earlier, I'll say a meeting ago on Appendix D, Britton Road, for the portion that was in Ward 1, was from the bridge to the Narberth Road. That's being removed from the list, because again, we had that under our lane kilometers. DTI is looking after that portion in the winter only from the bridge to Narberth Road. So DTI, so it's out of our list for Ward 1, but DTI is looking after it. So this just sort of spells that out. Another change, I guess, is on School Street. Previously, the town contractor looked after that. We've had discussions with Anglophone School District South. The school district is going to service School Street on school day. on weekends, or March break and holidays, the municipality will look, because there is some residents that are in the factor, so the municipality is gonna look after School Street, but it won't be a priority 1, it'll be a priority 3 local street. But it's not going to school day. So again, if it's on a school day, the school district is gonna look after School Street. Weekends, evenings, March break, Christmas break, the municipality is gonna look after, but at a lower rank. Excuse me, priority 3. So that's gonna get changed just as to who's looking after School Street. There was a park and ride that we had at Inglewood where people parked into the walking trail. I guess we've taken that, excuse me, out of the list and made it a priority 3, because it's not really parked or used as a park and ride, it's used as a park and do the trail. Well, the trail's closed in the wintertime, so it's just a priority. We're still gonna plow, but the priority is down from 1 to 3. So these are the changes that's being proposed. Sidewalk changes, I guess, in the original plan, it had the word, I guess, school morning or before school opening in the morning. So we've taken that out and just put that to the school day, because again, with the plowing operation is when the storm is underway, we're gonna be plowing snow onto the sidewalk, so the sidewalk's not safe. So we have to wait till we're done plowing the road, and then when we're done plowing the road, we'll service the sidewalk on a school day plan, which will be certain areas, but not necessarily before school, because if we're plowing before school, we're not able to get that. So again, that's just what we got wording change on that. But again, after the road's done, we'll look after the sidewalks and go. And another change from what was there previously, again, when we had a contractor, we were looking after the roads and we were looking after the sidewalks as a separate unit, is Inglewood Drive and Echo Park Road, where they have the wide shoulders, the white lines, and they paved shoulders. We used to look after that with our sidewalk machine. So now with the operation in-house, we're gonna look after that with the plows. So when they plow the road, they're also gonna widen over and plow the shoulder. So that's coming out of what was being serviced with the sidewalk tractors, and now it's being serviced with the plow. So those are the major changes proposed for the initial, I guess, in-house snow patrol.
Thank you, Bruce. Council, do you have any questions for the commissioner on the plan? I'm very pleased to see the cooperation between the town and the school district on the busing routes. You know, that's been identified as a concern in the past, and so I'm very pleased to see that. So I'm excited and a little nervous about what the winter is gonna hold for us.
Every winter is different. Every winter is different.
Okay. So if there are no further questions for the Works Commissioner, the motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield adopt the revised snow and ice control plan dated November 2023 for immediate effect. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bellman. I think that was a second by Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. 11B, Budget 2024, Capital. I'll pass that over to the Deputy CEO, who I assume is gonna pass it over.
Pass it over,
to the
yeah.
CFO.
But before I do, a couple of comments. This is the final and last stage to a long process that began back in June, or in the spring at the very least, and involved basically all staff. Sorry, I lost my thought. I guess most importantly, what we want to do is take a moment to acknowledge, as we did in the previous meeting, on our special meeting of October 30th, where the budget was presented to council, the work that is involved by staff, in particular our CFO and our assistant treasurer, Hannah, have done a lot of work, as well as all of the staff, department heads, and even non-department heads for consistently working to maintain fiscal responsibility, and keeping the budget as lean as we can. For those who did not have a chance to see that meeting, it is on the town's YouTube channel. We highly encourage people to watch it. It's very educational for understanding how the budget is done, and why things are in the way they are, whether it be how a tax rate is determined and so on. But with that, for this final phase of our budget process, I will turn over to James, our CFO.
Thank you, Deputy CEO Eric. Your Worship, the 2024 capital budget is an important step along our path of asset management and providing for infrastructure investments in the future in the town. The capital budget of $1.8 million will provide investments into transportation, fire, recreation, and general government. Some of the highlights include street improvements, a new Jaws of Life and UTV for the fire rescue department, recreation initiatives such as plans for a recreation hub and a trails master plan, repairs and renovations to the community centre, and an upgraded digital sign, among other items. It's a result of a 5-year capital plan that we developed earlier in the year. We used that to identify the capital items that were in need of addressing in 2024, and it's a tool that we're going to use in the future to bring forward the capital plan each year. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the Deputy CAO or the CFO on the capital budget as presented? Again, I just want to take, I know we're not through all the budget yet, but I want to take the moment also to thank you and Hannah and all of the staff for pulling this together. You know, as we all know, we've gone through significant challenges over the last few years. You know, this year was no different. You know, a drop of almost $400,000 in government transfers, the intense effects of inflation, which affect municipalities more so than most because of the types of things that we purchase, like asphalt, that has gone up 88% over the last couple of years. Increased regional service commission costs due to government mandates. All of those things have affected the municipality, and you know, staff and council have come together, you know, to pull this budget. And so thank you very much for the work, because it is a lean budget, but it does, the budget is the fiscal manifestation of our strategic plan. So it's, you know, it's about delivery of the key core services and also implementing the strategic plan. And this budget balances both of those things as best as it can. So really excellent work from our staff, so thank you very much. So if there are no questions from council on the capital plan, the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield move that the 2024 capital budget in the amount of $1,810,000 be adopted as presented. I have a motion. Thank you, Councillor Balcom, and that was a second by Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 11C, Budget 2024, General Operating. And again, I'll pass this over to you.
Yes, let it go straight to the
Thank you. So Your Worship, the 2024 operating budget that Council has before them this evening, as Your Worship and the Deputy CEO mentioned, is the accumulation of many hours of hard work that started in June. There was Finance Department planning, department head meetings, there was a Council Strategic Planning Day that was held, there was consultations with community groups. Public presentation was held 2 weeks ago, and tonight we have the budget before you. It is effectively, as you mentioned, it's effectively administration's plan for implementing Council's strategic objectives. Council has laid out the goals, and this is how administration planned to get there. A couple of points to note from the public presentation 2 weeks ago. The RCMP costs were not finalised at that point in time. We did since receive those final costs. They were similar to the budget amounts that we had presented, so there is no change to the tax rates that were presented 2 weeks ago. We did ask for public feedback, and we did receive some. So I'm just going to go through some of the types of questions that we did receive. Hopefully that helps explain things to residents at home. And answers their questions. One of the questions, why is Ward 2 tax rate increasing so much? Well, the increase was prescribed by provincial regulations. There are annual increases allowed of 5 cents per year, plus increases for changes in services and regional costs. I'd like to point out that Ward 2 residents also pay 41 cents directly to the province for maintaining the roads in Ward 2. So the tax rate presented isn't necessarily the tax rate they pay. That's the tax rate that goes to the town of Grand Bay-Westfield. That rate of 41 cents has remained unchanged for many years despite significant increases to fuel, asphalt and fleet maintenance. That rate, the tax rate that comes to the town, that is going to continue to increase until at least 2030. In line with the provincial regulations, is permitted to go up 5 cents per year. Similar question, why is there a difference between the Ward 1 and the Ward 2 tax rates? So we followed the provincial regulations, we divided up the costs between Ward 1 and Ward 2, between shared services such as recreation, council, and local services such as roading for Ward 1 and garbage collection for Ward 2. So that's why there's a difference in the rates. There's a difference in service level in both wards. There's a question around water and wastewater in Ward 2 and how that affects the tax rates. So it doesn't affect the tax rates that we are presenting at all. That wastewater and water facility is maintained by the province. There's a user fee that's charged to their 50 residents that are connected to it, and they pay that fee directly to the province. So there's no integration with that system in any of our operations. There's questions around access for facilities for residents that live on the outskirts of town, and how does the difference in the tax rate reflect what they use in the town. So all of the facilities that the town operates are for all of the residents. Some live closer, some live further away. The makeup of our community is such that we are a thin, narrow strip essentially. So some people are going to live closer to the facilities than other people. Ideally, over time we can increase the density of our housing. If we have more doors and more residences paying their tax dollars, then hopefully that will mean that everything becomes more affordable for all residents. There's a question around debt versus reserves. So we are acting to minimise our debt repayments and really look at an efficient way to utilise our reserves to make the dollars go further. So reserves, as presented 2 weeks ago, reserves are not adequate. We have a plan to address the reserves and to increase them. That doesn't necessarily mean we won't be taking debentures. There's a difference in mindsets between paying today with today's tax dollars versus paying in the future with future tax dollars, so that the people in the future that enjoy the benefit of maybe in a building or a new facility, they're the ones paying for it. But what we're really trying to do is make sure we have financial resiliency, we have enough money that if we need it, we can access it. And ultimately the goal is that we can start to self-finance projects and we're not reliant on debt repayments. It just gives us more flexibility. We can strike while the iron is hot. If an opportunity presents itself, we can pounce on it. Now we really have to go through a long process to get provincial debentures, get approval from the province, borrow money. The last question was around protective services. There was quite a jump, just under 40% increase in the expenses around protective services. So what's involved in protective services is animal control, bylaw enforcement, and EMO. And the increase in expenditures there is really around animal control. So council this year passed a new animal control bylaw. That puts additional responsibilities onto our animal control officer. She needs some new equipment. She's going to have a lot more work to do. So there's additional funds in there to allow for the work that needs to be done to meet the obligations under the bylaw. I know, Your Worship, you thanked senior leadership, and Troy said some kind words. I'd also like to express my thanks to senior leadership, and in particular the Assistant Treasurer Hannah Chen. She put in a lot of long hours building templates, building spreadsheets, checking numbers, and it was amazing work that she did. Procedurally, what will happen if Council approves the budget tonight? We will be submitting the budget for the first time through an electronic mechanism. The province has a new finance portal, so we will be utilising that process once Council approves the budget.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Hannah. Before I read the motion, anybody have any questions for our CFO on the budget? Deputy Mayor Toole?
Not so much a question, just a comment. I really appreciate you talking about the importance of having stuff like, to strike when the iron's hot, is what you were mentioning. Because I know all of us around here, we've had issues when you want to do something, but we don't have the land or don't have the money or don't have. So I think it's hard for people to see that the benefit that is there for them. Like we can do a lot more if we have something ready. And I think that's the problem that we've had for the past few years is there hasn't been anything ready for us to do something with right away. So I think this is a huge benefit that people are going to see in the long run once we start to have kind of, I won't call it a cushion because it's not a cushion, it's pretty flat, but we have something that we can start striking and getting in and taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves. So, and this is great. I think I can speak for all of us when this budget worked so well. We've seen in the background and how it came out. We've got a lot of detail. We all were able to go to the presentation, and I think we're all quite comfortable and fully understand, and that's a key piece. So thank you for that.
And again, speaking to that reserve piece, it's the opportunity, but it's also that resiliency. We've seen the town of Bay-Westfield has been subject to the effects of climate change significantly, not once recently, but twice. So having ready access to funds is really important. Yes, the province will step in or the feds will step in, but there's going to be a long lag time in between when we need the money and when we get the money. And sometimes it's a year or more. So it's very important that we're able to have access to funds should emergencies arise as well. But any other further questions for CFO? Okay, then I'll move on to reading the motion. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield approves the following. The sum of $8,462,962 be the total operating budget of the local government of Bay-Westfield for the 2024 fiscal year. These all have to be done separately or all together on this?
You can read it all together.
Okay. The sum of $7,546,629 be the warrant to the local government for the 2024 fiscal year. The tax rate for Ward 1 will be $1.31 for the 2024 fiscal year. The tax rate for Ward 2 will be 0.6759 for the 2024 fiscal year. The levying by the Minister of Local Government and Local Governance Reform of said amount on real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of Bay-Westfield. Do I have a motion? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Balcom, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. And we'll go on to item 11D, Budget 2024, Sewerage. And again, we'll pass that on to staff.
So this is the final of the three budgets that will be approved this evening related to the sewage utility. And I'll have James.
Thank you, Troy. Your Worship. So the sewer utility operates as a standalone entity. And what that means is it has to operate solely with the funds that it has. There's no integration with this budget, with the last budget that was discussed. This is separate and distinct. So the user fees that are collected, pay for the operation of the utility. And to maintain operations in 2024, the utility requires a budget increase of 9%. This is a result of increased maintenance and reserve allocations. The user rate requested will be increasing from $350 to $370. This is a 6% increase. It should be noted that due to the expanded user base of the utility, we were able to reduce the rate increase. If we hadn't had new users join, the rate request would have been around $380. So that's just how significant adding users to utility is. There are no material changes to the budget presented from the public presentation 2 weeks ago. And if council approves this evening, a bylaw will be brought forward at the next council meeting to officially set the user rate for 2024. And then for the first time, we're actually going to set the user rate for the years 2025 to 2029 at the same time. We developed a 5-year forecast for the utility so we can foresee what the rate will be for the next 5 years. So we're going to put that in a bylaw now to give residents that information up front for the next 5 years.
Thank you, James. Anybody have any questions for the CFO on the storage budget as presented? I just want to point out, you just really illustrated the benefits of densification with that 9% increase in expenses, but only a 6% increase in the fees. So that's it right there. The motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield adopt the 2024 sewerage utility budget reflecting total revenue of $709,659 and total expenditures of $709,659 with a sewerage user rate of $370 per unit, $370 per unit, effective January 1st, 2024. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burke. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Again, just before I move on, council and administration and everybody in this office are united in moving the town forward. And we're strong. We're a growing community. We must be resilient and we must be always forward thinking. So I think this budget is a reflection of those priorities. And thank you to staff again. Thank you to council. We will move on to item 11E, UMNB AGM resolutions. For people at home that might not know what that is, UMNB is the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick, and they are an advocacy organization with most of the municipalities of the province as members, and their annual general meeting is coming up at the end of this month. And resolutions are a tool that the organization uses to advocate on behalf of municipalities to the provincial government. So we're going to go through all of the resolutions that will be presented at the AGM to determine how council would like to vote in support or not in support of these resolutions at the meeting and help craft what work the union will be doing in 2024 and beyond. So the first one is, and I apparently don't have to read the entire resolution, just the be it resolved piece, so thankfully that's a good news. The first one is tourism accommodation levy applicable to short-term rental properties. And the be it resolved that, 1, the UMNB advocate to and request that the government of New Brunswick amend the sections of the Local Government Act dealing with tourism accommodation levies so that the application of such levies would specifically extend to all short-term rental properties listed online accommodation platforms like those operated by Airbnb and VRBO. 2, the UMNB advocate to and request that the government of New Brunswick work with online accommodation platforms including Airbnb and VRBO to create a system whereby tourism accommodation levies can be collected by those companies as a part of their rental service agreements and then remitted to the local government in which those properties operate to be used for tourism promotion and development. 3, that UMNB advocate to and request that the government of New Brunswick create a central registry to ensure that all short-term rental properties operating within the province are registered with the province so that municipalities may better understand how many short-term rental properties are operating within their jurisdiction, who manages those properties, and the impacts such short-term rental properties may have on the availability of housing stock. So this motion would be in support of this resolution, so if you wish to defeat it, you defeat the motion. So do I have a motion? Yep, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? I will speak in support of this motion. It's an issue across the province. It's most keenly felt in the bigger municipalities, but I've heard people from smaller municipalities talking about how it impacts housing stock available for residents and people moving to the area. Local governments such as ours don't have the resources to track these properties, to deal with collecting the levies, etc. So I think this is an acceptable way of moving forward with this.
How's it different from bed and breakfast? Is it the same idea, or like Airbnb or Ergo?
Well, they are completely different. An Airbnb would be considered commercial, non-residential. They would pay a different tax rate and would be zoned differently. I understand. That would be my understanding of it. Maybe the deputy CAO or the CFO or the development officer would have more input on that.
I know specifically a bed and breakfast wouldn't have a separate commercial rating, but it would be licensed by the province.
Okay, so there is a difference in terms of that.
And now if there's a tax implication, there might be
Any other questions or comments? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. And the second is removal of social focus mandate from the Regional Service Commission's Community Development Mandate. Be it resolved that UMNB call upon the Government of New Brunswick to remove the social focus mandate from the Regional Service Commission's Community Development Mandate, including the added costs associated with their 2024 budgets, or, excuse me, if the Government of New Brunswick continues to support, excuse me, talking too much, the social focus mandate being added to the responsibilities of the Regional Service Commissions, then the province also agrees, excuse me, to fund RSC's 100% of the full cost for this added mandate on an ongoing basis. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Okay. Municipal land grants. Be it resolved that the Union of Municipalities adopts the following motion: that the Government of New Brunswick be requested to grant up to 50 acres of Crown land to municipalities within the following guidelines. The land be granted within 1 year of a municipal request. The municipality provide a plan regarding the number of housing units to be built and the infrastructure required. The granted land may only be used for the building of housing. The granted land must be used within a 5-year time horizon. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. The next one for your review is reliable reception for cell phones in New Brunswick. Be it resolved that the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick work in collaboration with the AFMNB and the SCM to lobby governments, provincial and federal, so that they invest in the development of reliable cell phone network for all citizens. Excuse me, do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. The next one is Sustainable and Transparent Department of Transportation and Infrastructure DTI Funding Agreement. Be it resolved that the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick advocate with the Government of New Brunswick to develop a new funding agreement with a funding formula based on a per kilometre basis that is tied to the economic growth of the province as defined by a share of the provincial portion of the HST from the previous fiscal year. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Moratorium on Regional Service Commission cost increases. Be it resolved that the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick advocate with the Government of New Brunswick to place a moratorium on Regional Service Commission cost increases pending offsetting financial contributions directly from the province. I have a motion. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I think it was a second from Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Removal of PST/HST on new apartment construction. Be it resolved that the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick lobby the Government of New Brunswick to remove the provincial portion of the HST on new purpose-built rental housing. I have a motion. Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. And the last one, new revenue tools for municipalities. Be it resolved that the UMNB urge the province of New Brunswick to implement new revenue tools for municipalities, including, but not limited to, vacating property tax room and modernizing the property tax system, provincial municipal revenue sharing options, a fairer and more responsible equalization program, and long-term offsets to compensate for new responsibilities carried out by regional service commissions. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. And do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. That was long, right? We'll move on to 11F, MOU, Westfield and District Recreation Association Inc. And the PCAO,
Thank you.
that's on you.
So this is a fire department item. This has been quite a while in the making. We've been trying to get this project done for several years, but the availability of an actual tank was causing some delays. So we now have that tank, and the intent is to install an underground water storage tank at the Four Corners Recreation Area. So what this item is just whereas that land is controlled by the Westfield District Recreation Association, this is just a memorandum of understanding between the town and that association on basically, it lays out that, here's what we'll be responsible for, meaning the fire department, what we'll take care of, which is all installation, maintenance and that type of thing. And then in turn, what they'll be responsible for. So one of the parts of the agreement is that they'll be able to use that to flood the rink. So one item in there, for example, is that anytime they flood the rink, that they notify us within, 12 or 25, within 24 hours. So we're able to go and refill that tank.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the fire chief and deputy CAO?
Just one question, Your Worship. Chief, will the pump that will be used to fill the tank be housed in a structure?
So right now, the tank is actually going to be refilled by, so there is going to be a pump there. We're going to make a pump available. We have multiple spare older pumps that aren't quite fit for firefighting duties anymore, but they can still move some water. So we're gonna have one of those on site for the Recreation Association to use to flood the rink. As far as refilling the tank, that will be done by us hauling water with our trucks and basically just dumping directly into the tank. There is a brook downstream, depending on whether we may actually hook up one of our high volume portable pumps and just run a hose up to the tank, but there won't be, at this point, a structure is not included.
Follow-up question if I may.
Absolutely.
Is there a possibility that eventually a well could be drilled there? And a pump?
It is possible. We did attempt that venture in one instance on Morningside Crescent. We have 2 large underground tanks there. The problem with the wells is you never really know how much you're gonna get out of them until they're drilled and how much that'll cost. And for example, that one really, I don't wanna say it ended up being a complete waste. If we use just a little bit of water, we can kind of go up, turn the well on, but you can only run a well for so long. So it's not, unless you kind of strike gold from the water point of view, it's not the most reliable method of refilling 8,000 gallon tanks.
So, thank you, Roger. Thank you, Chief.
Any, Councillor Bellamont and then Councillor Murphy.
Can you, like, you know, the rock constantly into the tank and flows back, actually it's full, it flows out to the river, can you like have a cycle from the rock somehow, and that's always full, right?
Yes, but the only way to do that because of the elevation would be actually to install a pump that would really be running 24/7 in that sense, or at least have. Yeah.
What's that, so self-feeding, like, I mean, from the rock to the tank, then tank will have an overflow pipe back out, so if it was full, it'd be going right back in the river, yeah.
Yes, so and we have a similar system outside of this building here where we have 2 underground tanks, but there happens to be an underground spring that flows right by. So that's what it does, it flows into the tank, when the tank's full, it just continues right on past the tank through its natural route. Where this pump is going is actually not close enough to the water, and it's probably a good 10 or 15 feet elevation height above the actual brook. So it's not that something like that isn't possible, but it would have made the cost to install, because then you're also now working near the brook.
Yes.
Part of our goal here is to keep it that distance away from the brook, because that changes your environmental impact.
Councillor Murphy.
Thank you. Do you have any idea when this might all take place?
Once this is pending approval, if this is approved this evening, that's the final green light that's needed for the construction to begin. The contractor had stated availability for the middle of November, which is tomorrow, so it could start anytime after tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll read the motion and open it up for further questions. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the Mayor and the CAO to sign the Memorandum of Understanding between the town and the Westfield and District Recreation Association regarding the installation of a water storage tank at the Four Corners Recreation Area. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any further questions or comments on the motion?
A good idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. I know this has been a long time coming. It's nice to see that tank in the fire.
Yeah, it'll make both parties' lives much easier.
Yeah, that's right. Item 11G, road closure proposal, 25 Crosser Court. Troy?
So I'll turn this over to the development officer for comment. The one note I will make is that the original one, this has been tweaked just a little bit to ensure that the property, this particular closure does not affect the future ability to develop adjacent property. So we're not limiting any future development by making this decision.
So the applications from a private property owner owns property on both sides of the right of way. It's an undeveloped right of way, and the process is a policy that we've got in place, and we've had 4 other similar applications over the past 20 years. The one that's most directly related was in 2001, and it was another part of this same right of way. was conveyed. The process includes, after approval from council to proceed, is to do a road closure bylaw for the portion of the street, and then an amending subdivision plan in the conveyance of that property to the property owner. And the application process requires deposit from the applicant. We have that in place, and if we use a little less than we've asked for the deposit, he gets that refunded.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David before I go on to read the motion? No? Thank you. The motion is the council of the town of Bay-Westfield approve proceeding with preparing survey and legal documents to enable passing a bylaw to close a certain portion of Prosser Court for consolidation of this parcel with the two adjoining properties, PID 302-1081 and 458-406, all costs to be covered by the applicant. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Balco. Questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield authorize the November 14th, 2023 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $631,984.98. Do I have a motion? The Deputy Mayor Toole motion and second by Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the bills for payment? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 13, consent agenda. 13A, UMNB dues change. B, October 2023 building report. C, PC meeting minutes, October 3rd, 2023. D, NB Police Association advertising request. E, Grand Bay-Westfield full real estate report. F, PAC memo to cancel reterm expirations, and consent agenda. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for November 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Have a second? Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item 14, council reports, and we'll start with Councillor Day this evening.
I first would like to thank Councillor Balcom and the Legion for streaming Remembrance Day ceremony on Saturday. It was good to be able to watch it from a distance. And I've been involved with the Age Friendly and attending their meetings, and we have more this week.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Balcom.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like all members of council, I attended the special meeting of council for the budget on the 30th. On November 1st, I had the honor of attending a networking session hosted by Envision St. John, along with Your Worship, and our development officer and our acting CAO, also our fire chief. We met with a number of developers, but in particular, we received presentations from 4 New Brunswick-based modular home manufacturers, and we approached them all afterwards, and it's amazing construction. We've been invited to tour 2 of the factories, if and when is needed, and we have made what I believe is very useful contacts, such that we can help some of our residents, or possibly service clubs if they're interested in housing, and it's just another tool in our toolbox, so that was very worthwhile. On November the 9th, I attended a special meeting of TD Harbour Station, and as Councillor Day mentioned, on November 11th, along with Your Worship and many other people of the community and members of council, the November 11th ceremony it's strange, last year the temperature was almost 20 degrees and we had a large crowd. It was just above 0, I think, and damp and blowing wind, and we had a record number of attendees. So it was very, very moving, as it always is, and everybody is enjoying the outdoor ceremony at the Peace Park. And in closing, Your Worship, I'd like to give a shout out to the Works Commissioner and the Works Department. A business owner of the town made a special telephone call to me and stated that he was very impressed with the Works Commissioner physically approaching the business. It was along River Valley Drive. Some asphalt potholes needed to be filled, and the question was asked, which would be the best day to minimize disruption to your business. Now, I think that most likely is when time permits, as part of the standard operating procedure that the Works Commissioner and Department follows. For a business owner to take the time out and proactively call a councillor, I think that was very much noted and worth stating tonight. So thank you very much. That's it, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Schwartz.
Thank you. So on October 28th, I'm sure everyone remembers the Halls of Terror. So the town partnered with Scared Care and the River Valley Middle School to put this on for our residents. It was well attended. I think we made about $2,800, and that will go to the grade 8 class to help with their grade 8 trip. As Councillor Balcom said, on October 30th, we were all involved with the special meeting budget presentation, but also that night before the meeting, we were all part of the fire truck ceremony, pushing it into the bay, so that was fun. November 9th was the Wedge Point Christmas Market, which I attended. It was very nice. Also on November 10th, along with the mayor, I attended the Granbury Primary Remembrance Day ceremony. Each class did a little song or presentation, so that was very, very moving. And lastly, on November 11th, I also attended the ceremony at the Peace Park.
Okay, thank you very much. And Deputy Mayor Toole.
I guess I'd like to mention, I did mention the fire truck ceremony and the special meeting for the budget presentation on October 30th, which was great. And I was actually away the last couple of weekends. I haven't done too much more, but like Councillor Day, I was really pleased to be able to live stream the Legion ceremony on Remembrance Day down at the Peace Park. It was great too. Wasn't able to make it physically, and it was really, really well done. So I was really pleased to have that option. So kudos to them for doing that, because it was great.
Thank you. And Councillor Belvin.
Well, October 3rd, we did the budget thing, plus councillors, and on October 25th, we were on the public meeting, the things going in there again. So, and Remembrance Day event, November 11th, and we went to the Watts Burial Ground Cemetery up in Ward 2. It was a nice ceremony, and I was surprised to see a burial ground back in the woods like that. So it was a pretty eye-opening thing for me, and pretty nice. Thanks, River Dell, for inviting me. So it's good. So, and that's what I have.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Burpee.
Thank you. So I've been busy. Excuse me, on October 24th, I attended the luncheon for the Port of St. John with the CEO, Craig Esterbrooks. Councillor Day was also in attendance, and he gave a great presentation. He's got a very strong forward vision for the port, and with plans to add more cranes, modernization of the Potash and Rodney Terminal, working to develop cold storage, and so that was really interesting as the port affects so many different avenues. On October 25th, I attended by Zoom the Home Builders meeting, which was Jason Roach from Clear Power Solutions, and basically it was all about solar modules connected to your home, to connect to your meter, to convert that into electricity, Also, I have, if anybody wants to have a look at it, some energy solutions from MB Power, which is grant information and also making your home more energy efficient. November 2nd, I attended with Councillor Balcom and also the mayor, the cadets' first march at the Legion with nine new cadets. Then on November 6th, the visit to the Black settler's grave. November 7th, this is cybersecurity that was held here in the Grand Bay Room, which was some really, really good tips on how to keep your computer safe. I do none of them, but I'm going to start. So there was some really good information there. Also on November 7th, I attended my training and screening for the Big Brothers Big Sisters Mentor Program, so I can't wait to get started with my match. On that same day, also attended the Chamber Outstanding Business Awards, which was a really nice night of networking and meeting new people and promoting the Grand Bay-Westfield. November 8th, at the MB Power, I attended with the mayor the Point LaPro safety presentation on the stable salt reactor that uses recycled nuclear waste as fuel, thus reducing the need for fossil fuels and reducing carbon emission. And November 11th, I really enjoyed the remembrance ceremony, and it was chilly, but it was so many people. It was really nice to see such great community involvement there, and that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Murphy. Well, everybody stole all my thunder. You got all the same things that I did. Also, I'll just be really brief. So I attended the monthly meeting of the Fundy Regional Service Commission. I attended also the developer networking and information session that Councillor Balcom was there as well. And those are great sessions because we're really trying to increase development here in Grand Bay-Westfield and change the perception that developers have of us. And the only way to really do that is by reaching out and connecting with the industry as a whole. So it's well worth the time to do that, and it was a great session that Envision put together, and I look forward to more of those. I really enjoyed the Grand Bay Cadets Open House and First Formal March. They did a great job, and they're going to be a great unit. I know they are, and they've got some really great leadership there to help guide them along. I was a presenter at the Women in Business New Brunswick event, Women's Leadership Gathering, help present becoming involved in municipal politics, what the steps are, what you need to do, what's involved, the good, bad, the ugly, all of that. I was also at the unveiling of the memorial monument at the Watson Burial Ground, where some of the first Black settlers here in Grand Bay-Westfield are buried, and that was really great. If anybody wants to learn more about that, you can find it on the Grand Bay-Westfield Heritage site. There's a lot of great information on the history in our area, and the Watson Burial Ground is one of the subjects that is covered in that website. And thank you to Ralph Thomas and Ray Riddell and everybody else, and our MLA, Bill Oliver, who was involved in helping to secure funding for that monument. I also attended the cybersecurity lunch and learn, because you can never have too much cybersecurity in this day and age. There were some pretty sobering statistics thrown around at the workshop in terms of how many times per minute your computer is subject to attacks and you don't even see it. So it was pretty eye-opening in that respect. Along with Councillor Burpee, I attended the MB Power information session and presentation on the current state and future of energy in New Brunswick, and specifically how nuclear power in particular is one of the ways that they're looking at getting away from fossil fuels, and how nuclear can work with wind and tide and water power, in terms of being able to provide a stable power source during high draw times. I attended the replacement of the flags at the Veterans Peace Park, and again, that was a wonderful job done by our local cadets, lowering the old flags and raising the new one. It was a snowstorm, and they were a little nervous, but they did a wonderful job. The Grand Bay Primary Remembrance Day ceremony was just wonderful. Watching all of the different classes do a piece of that presentation was really nice. It was one of the nicest ceremonies I've been to. And of course, the Remembrance Day ceremony at the Peace Park on November the 11th. I, venture to say that it was probably the nicest Remembrance Day ceremony, the most meaningful in the entire region. It was really lovely. And I thank Councillor Balcom and Corey Ryan and everybody involved in the Legion and beyond for putting that together, and all the community for coming out and supporting and showing that we really appreciate the service of our veterans and our current service members as well. So that was just sort of a snapshot of the last couple of weeks from me. And so with that, we will move on to business arising from committee of the whole. There being none, we'll move on to item 16, adjournment. And the motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 8:30 p.m. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. I have a second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Good day.